Sup, my gamers, or maybe I should say, hey gamers, what should you sup? Well, you know what? Gamer Sups, the delicious energy formula I often talk about, sugar-free, has a nice slow build-up, a long plateau, and doesn't have that nasty little crash at the end. Delicious flavours, don't taste chemically or chalky. It's all nice nuance, the profile, so much selection. You can currently get, not the usual 10% off using my code Thorin at gamersups.gg. You can get 22% off anything on the store / your basket from today, the 2nd of February, at 8 p.m. CET, 2 p.m. EST, and 11 a.m. PST onwards through to roughly a week. So it will be the 9th of February, the following Friday, and the sale will end at 7 p.m. CET, which is 1 p.m. EST and 10 a.m. PST, or when supplies run out. So it's potentially for a limited time only. So if you're listening to this, you like Gamer Sups, you've tried it before, now's the perfect time to stock up. If you haven't tried it before, now's the perfect time to give it a try. By the way, when you make an order, be sure to add some free samples so you get to try some extra flavours. And they've got loads of stuff there. They've got the classic Gamer Sups. Here's one nice one called Strawberry Burst. It's quite sweet, but it's got the nice energy effect. Obviously, if you like to have a shaker with a woman there where the swimsuit goes the colour of the drink inside so you can make it blue or red or whatever, or maybe you'd like to get some black tea, have some Gamer Sups tea while you're playing. Maybe you want some tea with Thorin so you can go to sleep. I doesn't have any caffeine in this one. Or maybe you just want like a classic type of shaker. This one with kind of like a print design, isn't it? Everything on the store for limited time only until as long as supplies last. Use the code Thorin, THORIN, for 22% off your order. Now's the time to buy up. Now then, speaking of new exciting things, this new atmosphere at the LEC is really cool, right? It's making the vibe really sick. Suddenly there's these like rivalries. BO1s matter in a way that before maybe they never did. Oh, there's all these reasons to be excited, right? I mean, let's be real. Specifically, this atmosphere is coming from Spanish fans who are supporting Mad Lions, who otherwise, by the way, would just be an also-ran with not very famous players, and French fans supporting Carmine Corp, which is pretty telling this time around because Carmine Corp's been appalling. So it's actually even kind of cool. These aren't even the best teams. It's not like this is Mad Lions that came in with like a championship contender. These are actually like also-ran / bottom of the table / mid-table teams that are getting some of the most attention and pop. And obviously, people like Carmine Corp had already built up this following in the LFL as Carmine Corp with some of these players. People like the Mad Lions are obviously benefiting from this branding with the Koi people, so Ibai's people and all his fans. In general, you'll see that it's not just these teams and the fans. The domestic scenes are behind each of these teams. The broadcasts are behind them. There's even something of a banter and memes going around that. And it just looks in general like this has raised fan engagement, fan interest, the stakes, as I say, of BO1s, how much people actually care about the outcome, even though a lot of it obviously is performative, or it's just to play into this story show. And it's generally, I would say, being hailed as a universal or net positive, as though like it's just good and no one's mentioned any dark side. Well, here's the thing. If you know the history of the atmosphere at the LEC, this is way better than what it used to be. It used to absolutely be the stereotype of this is a German crowd at like I would say Babby's first MOBA video game tournament in just Europe. Like you can imagine that already sounds like it's going to be kind of boring, like golf claps and then really nerdy people with backpacks on like, heh, and little Timor hat. Yeah, that's exactly what it was like when you went there, by the way. It was shit. What would happen was you'd have these really weird people. What's bizarre is there even used to actually be a decent amount of girls that you'd see go there, but they weren't even kind of the cool, like we're all in the fan club type you get in Korea. They were more almost like the not a stalker type you'd get in Korea who go on their own or with like two other friends. And then they do support the player just for like who he is and because they like him, but not for his game and how good he is, but on some weird like stan angle of like, but he's just a cool guy, or like he's cute, isn't he? And then like doing all weird things like the shipping him with other people in the sea. Sometimes, by the way, just shipping two players as though like, I mean, you've just decided they're sexual. There's some weird stuff went on that whole. So it was that, or it was just boring people. It was just people with just generic Riot game. I mean, the joke is it really was people with Timor hats and stupid and Riot Games, League of Legends t-shirts and stuff. So it'd been a meme for years and years and years. It was nowhere near when you have a big event like IM Cologne in Counter-Strike, even though that's also in Germany. the difference is you get to the stadium event, part of that event, that's almost like comparable to a football atmosphere, except obviously in that case, it's more split up in terms of the fans. Yeah, you had the odd team that came along that flouted convention, unicorns of love, primarily, by the way, because of Romain Bigade, the guy who's like now the whatever, general manager or whatever he is, head guy over at G2. The guy who paints himself and had been doing that since it was mainly because of him, like leading that wacky fan angle. And then obviously, there was such a weird idiosyncratic team in all of history, whether that was the era with Hillasang and Vardags, or Power Viva, or later on with Vizicachi, or later on after that. You get the point. So yeah, it was always a strange team. But theirs was almost like ironic support. It wasn't really that these people loved high-level League of Legends and supported them, or that like, I'm just a UOL fan forever. It was more like specific things or weird angles. Obviously, you had some fanatic fans, particularly when Reckless was there. He had his own little stands, didn't he? I would say during the G2 Super Team era, especially when Carlos was active, you obviously had, you had very, very popular players on the mic, like Yankos and Perks, obviously, and you just had the best players as well, like Capsule. Yeah, they had some support then. I will say, though, all of that pales in comparison to even what we've seen in these BO1s in terms of the general atmosphere. Like, it is overall better with these fans, right? I would say it's true. It has spiced everything up. The joke is, as you saw with that El Yoya interview after just an otherwise fairly meaningless BO1, yeah, it made even the interview have like a level of excitement or tension it normally wouldn't have. I don't have any issue at all, by the way, with people booing them for an interview, booing players, booing them when they walk out. My issue is this: as long as it's only like booing, like you're not actually allowed to just like go right up in the guy's face, or you're not allowed to scream outrageous things at them as they go, but you're just allowed to go, boo, you suck, go back to this. Yeah, that's all okay. My problem obviously is this, is when the booing actually spoils the literal atmosphere or what you can hear on the mics. I have a problem with that. Like on that particular interview, we're all remembering when Law was interviewing El Yoya, the crowd mic was just too loud. So actually you could tell El Yoya himself was having an issue hearing what she was saying, which is already bad for an interview. And then it actually made us on the actual like broadcast, it almost drowned out a little bit some of what he was saying. That's the only issue, because they're not used to having big crowds and especially very vocal, consistently vocal, active crowds like this. They just haven't figured out the crowd mic aspect. Part of it might also be that they might still be sniffing their own farts at the LEC broadcast talent, just like, oh yeah, brilliant, oh my god, we've got a crowd. Because don't worry, ESL still hasn't gotten over the fact they have crowds at these events and have to 24/7 shout them out. But the difference is they make the sound balance from the crowd mics reasonable now. If you go to those events, you don't just hear 24/7 the one guy, let's go Astralis. You don't just hear that 7 million times right next to the mic. They make sure the mic isn't next to that guy. Or when the mic's got crowd noise coming in, they make sure the balance is right. So it's a background sound adding to the coolness and the reaction to what's happening, but it's not overpowering the casters. It's not overpowering the in-game sounds. And they've got that balance right. I would say, since people are going to say, this is like a football atmosphere. Yeah, and exactly. When you tune in to watch football on TV, when you're sat at home, does the crowd sound overwhelm the mics to the extent that it's insane and you feel like you're sat there? No. But you want to hear something. You want to hear the crowd roar when something happens, like shout in anger when the referee calls a penalty against you or a foul, etc. But you want to hear it, but you don't want it to overpower the broadcast. So that's the one thing, but they'll get that figured out, I think, in time. The problem I have is this. There are upsides and there's good things. I think people have actually sort of discussed those, or they kind of get them. But why is no one mentioning the dark side of this? It doesn't just come with no possible negatives. In fact, the negatives have already begun to creep onto the broadcast. Some of them unintentional through how I said the sound balance, etc. But here's one for you. Naimira said on Best Damn League Show he'd heard there had already been within the first, 2 weeks or first week or something, a fist fight in the crowd. That is already very disturbing. If on the first week you have this rivalry and people have travelled there in these groups to specifically cheer against the other team and follow this team, there's already been physical violence, at the very minimum attempted. Well, that's not a great sign, is it? Because if this is week one, where are we going to be when it's like this every week? What are we going to do, by the way, when it's a massive playoff game? What are we going to do if it's the finals? It's a mega controversial, like game 5, and then the loser loses off some weird like chrono break or like pause or game. But what the fuck's going to happen then? Where are the stakes going to be at then? And then one of the reasons why I was immediately alarmed when I heard that detail, that there'd been potentially a fist fight, is because the difference is when you actually have football, which is what everyone's comparing it to, They intentionally separate the fans. There's an away section for the fans of the other team, and the home team, their fans take up the rest of the stadium, and they are literally physically divided. Anyone who knows anything about the history of football knows the notion you would ever have like a Rangers versus Celtic game with incredible fever pitch of emotions, and then just have them stood next to each other in the crowd, so that when they're like, go Rangers, no, go Celtic, they can go, wait a minute, what do you mean? Go, if you know anything about history, that would be mental. Same with Barcelona and Real Madrid fans, or I don't know. I mean, I guess in the modern day, Liverpool and Man United fans aren't that bad, but you get the premise. Like, put it this way: if in English football you go to a stadium and whatever, let's say your home team is not actually the team you support, you're supporting like a bigger team, and so you're really there to watch the away team, but you've gone into like a smaller team's ground, like your local team, to sit in and have a seat. The unwritten rule is, unless you're nutty, you don't stand up and go crazy. You might lightly celebrate, but even then you're very careful because you're not sure who's around you and you're not sure what, you don't know if there's like a group of ultras who might kick your fucking head in or say, hey, send the fuck down. You don't even want to cause problems in that particular sense. So my issue is this. That's at football, where they have all those line of guys, of security guys, and fucking massive looking guys who could be like the bouncer at a nightclub who'll come over and fucking toss you on your head, and a video camera that'll check you and go, hey, you're banned for life if you do anything. We don't have that at the LEC. At the LEC, if you don't know, the number of security is not massive, by the way. Esports event in general just almost have token security. They almost never have to deal with anything until now. So my obvious problem is this. What the hell would you ever do, by the way, if there was actually a brawl? What would you do if some like Malice in the Palace type shit happened just among fans? What would you do if like 10 fans just all started fighting? How is all these security going to get in there, wade through, and stop like 10, 15, 20 people all fighting? Where have you got enough people to do it? By the way, what methods are you going to use? Are you going to hit them with a stick? Have you got a truncheon? Have you got a taser? You don't have guns. Like, what are you going to do in this scenario? I don't think people are thinking this through. And then, remember, you're not just making it, we're big fans of Mad Lions, boo to G2, or, hey, I'm a fan of Carmine Corp or BDS. Haha, I think that Giant X and Mad Lions suck. Ha, you Spaniards. No, as I just said at the end there, you're not just supporting the team. It's based massively around nationalism, right? About the idea that I support this team because I'm French and I'm listening to the French broadcast. They are French players and they're a French org. That's why I support them. No, well, I'm Spanish. So I'm watching the Spanish players and the Spanish org and the Spanish broadcast, and that's who I support. Well, you know what's obviously going to happen when you do that? People are going to get even more raised tensions. And now, it's not just a fight between the equivalent of a Liverpool and a Man United fan. Now it's a fight between people from Spain and France, countries that have like a history of war, etc. So I would just say in that scenario, this could be a powder keg and no one's thinking about it. And all it'll take is that little spark and it could get real nasty real quick. Then how about this? The fact that you're building this narrative of like the hype and the fan engagement along nationalistic lines means that unless these teams are totally Spanish and totally French or French speaking, you are actually going to inevitably, I think you've already started to see it, end up with some really unfair, potentially disturbing witch hunts on players who aren't from those countries or national backgrounds. So I'll give you an example. Carmine Corp was obviously absolutely dreadful for those first 2 weeks, like beyond belief how bad they were. And they were a massive project with massive expectations from the French audience. So even though if you asked a neutral expert, they would tell you the top 3 problems in the team in terms of players would go in this order. Probably number 1, Targamas, probably number 2, Sakin, and probably number 3, Cabachard. So that's Belgian, French speaking, French player, and French player again. Now the problem is they're all 3 traditional K-Corp players and they're French speaking / French. So did people blame those 3 players and the org first? No. The people who took all the flack in the first 2 weeks went in this order. Bo, the Chinese jungler, who by the way is probably the best player, upset the German ADC. I mean, why would French people have an agenda against someone German? Give me a fucking break. And then he was even, by the way, the second best player probably on the team for those first few weeks. And then thirdly, the coach. They didn't even go on the other players. They went on the coach, a fucking Swedish coach who, by the way, doesn't have any reason to dislike him at all. And they were mega blaming these 3 individuals. So they didn't have to blame the French-speaking ones or the ones that they've been riding with and the ones that they have an emotional investment with and represent their country, their scene, their league, their broadcast. So what do you know? Even if you're actually the best or the least bad elements of a failing team, you will be the one targeted so that they don't have to. You're basically the whipping boy so that that in this case, the upper class guy of fucking the equivalent of like some rich kid, which is the national player, he just gets to get away with it and go, oh, well, slap on the wrist for me, but go fucking in on him. You know how much stress that's going to cause pros who aren't from that region when they play on these teams? And remember, it's not as simple as then just don't accept the job. There's only 10 fucking spots in the LEC for each position, guys. At the end of the day, unless you're some massive name, you've got to sometimes just take a job. I mean, I would say we already saw this, didn't we? Isn't this literally what we already saw last year, which caused this initially around MSI, where when Mad Lions lost, did they go, well, they all played badly, let's assess, realistically who played worse in the game? No, what they did is the Spanish and French scenes went and looked at the post-game footage of the players stood up and their expressions, and they analysed like nutters trying to figure out who's going to win a UFC fight off the stare down, which is the shittest criteria of all time. And what they did is they looked at this, and basically the people who were in the Spanish scene decided, since El Yoyo looked upset because he's quite a fucking righteous, like full-on sort of like hardcore, passionate guy, really obviously should try hard and hates to lose, they took Niski laughing, even though he's kind of a glue guy and can be a bit more lighthearted and bring people out their fog. They took that to mean Niski wasn't serious as well. Let's be real, it's cause a Spanish player, they thought, got into it or potentially lost the game because of a French-speaking player, even though he's obviously Belgian, but you get the point, a French region player. So that already caused a massive divide. If you don't remember, they had all mad shit going on, like people who were on the Spanish broadcast, the actual core stream and broadcast, were just like insulting Niski himself and calling him an idiot and saying all ridiculous shit about him. And everyone going, yeah, but he made a tweet, he's not a fucking core streamer, mate, he doesn't have his own broadcast, who are we going to punish for that? They're like official core streamers at this point in time. So I think you've already seen it. I think it's only going to make life worse for some of the pros, even though, yes, the ones that are extravagant and outgoing and exhibitionists and the ones that can just handle it, they're probably going to enjoy more potentially having this active audience to play to or even to play against if they're against you, right? I also think similarly, this will actually warp recruitment. Like, it's obvious you'll just have fewer players from those regions cut from those teams. It'll be less likely they're cut. It'll be harder to cut them. And you will have more of those players recruited, whether they're good or not, or better than the person who's from another country who could have took that spot. Now listen, if you can end up somehow monetizing it, that you're bringing in all these players from that region, like maybe you can then have like a roadshow in Spain, in France, and guarantee you fill it out. Okay, now you sell ticket. Maybe then there's a logic behind it that makes that something of a positive again. Otherwise, I could see in the short term, kind of like with the lineups of Carmine Corp and Mad Lions, it's going to get really sus. By the way, I'm hearing right now that Carmine Corp isn't going to make any changes. They actually kind of hyped off those 2 wins, the org this is, and that they won't be changing out the names that you want to change out and bringing in those obvious LEC names that you want to bring in. So I think you're already seeing kind of the problems that this kind of approach of it's nationalistic is going to take when it comes to video games. So to me, there's also then a whole thing that people have of like, oh, it's just banter, it's just playful though, like, haha, what, can't you take a joke? What are you, snowflake or something? Now here's the problem. In some cases it is. Some people are having fun with it. People like Cadril are having fun with it, Yamato are having fun with it. Certain people in the domestic scenes are having some fun, although some are being a little bit incendiary. My problem is this. I think, first of all, that masks the fucked up shit. Like, let's be real. You go read the comments, there's a lot of heinous shit sent to people along these lines of like, oh, it's excuse because I'm just a fan with passion sending a message. Haha, boo, down with you. Except it doesn't say boo, down with you. It's sort of, unalive yourself in ye old Minecraft, isn't it? It's that sort of fucking thing, or stuff about your family or your mum or your sister or what girlfriend, whatever it might be, or your actual nationality, but like country-wise, not playful banter. And then also, I'm just going to say this, the idea that we're supposed to take it, because it's like, oh, it's just fun and banter, what, can't you take a laugh? You've obviously never seen these fans talk. These exact fans are the softest fans in the universe. These are the ones that if you said that like, oh, I think Niski is like the second best mid laner, then the French-speaking fan has to be like, you fucking idiot, you hit him. Oh my God, you are so biased. You are a fucking piece of shit. Why can you fucking say this? And then obviously the Spanish guys going fucking mental if you imply, I don't know, maybe the bot lane of Mad Lions isn't going to be one of the all-time great bot lanes, and 2 of them might not even be in the LEC in 2 years. What are you saying? You obviously hate Spanish people. Oh, Dios Dios. Give me a fucking break, mate. Like, these people can't handle any banter. The joke is that's why they go hard as fuck, where they have to have like a little group to attack in a mob, and they have to basically be directed by some fucked up nationalistic, jingoistic fucking Pied Piper figure on their core stream in their language, and half the time they don't even necessarily understand English with nuance themselves, and they're just getting sort of told like, attack this individual, look what he is saying about us and our people and our country, and it's just bullshit. So listen, To go back before, I'm fine with this atmosphere. I actually think it could be cool. I'm fine with booing. I'm fine with cheering for your people. I'm fine with people being massive fans of one player, one team, not giving a fuck about the league. But keep all the negatives as minimized as possible. Separate out the hardcore fan bases, or say if you come in as a group, we need to situate you accordingly. This group over here, this group over here. Be responsible with how you set it up. Set up the mic so we can hear it. We can enjoy that the crowd's a part of it, but they don't overbearing. They don't become the central part. They should never be the central part of the story. Like, look, it might be cool to have the atmosphere, but we're only talking about them for a second. Listen to them for a second. We're here then to listen to what Elyoy has to say in the interview. We're here to watch the players play. We're here to see what they do after the game. And yes, the background sound could make it cooler, could attenuate our experience, but it should never overtake it and become the focal point of it, right? So I think there are some real positives here, but we have to acknowledge that there are some real negatives there, and I hope get ahead of what seemed to me like some obvious or inevitable problems. Now then, as I said at the beginning, you've got about a week until supplies run out to get your Gamersups with 22% off using the code Thorin, Thorin, at gamersups.gg. I've had to make a lot of tough choices in my career, but thanks to the support of my Patreon community, the Skrilluminati, I never have to make tough financial decisions. So this video and all the rest on my channel are kindly supported by Ahmed Hadjou, Frisky, Pugnatio, Rajcula, Animosity, Jensen Goh, Tobias Bernasconi, Tosh, Torin, and you know it if you've ever heard before, and you'll hear it many times in the future. A special thanks goes out to my main man, Jerry Keys Minion. Do you want to ask a question in my video AMA? Do you want to be part of one of those long discussions where we talk about whatever you like in esports? Do you want teasers, find out who the upcoming guests are going to be? Or maybe you want to suggest a topic for a future Thorin's Thoughts type video? Well, if any of these perks or others appeal to you, put your money where your mouth is today and join the Skrilluminati by joining the Patreon link in the description box below.